My name is Brian Boswell. I'm with Coalesce, and today we're going to talk about migrating your ColdFusion workloads to AWS. Overall, we're going to start with introduction, who we are, and why would you want to go to AWS if you don't already know. We're going to go over some AWS services and the terms they use to compare to your on-premise environment, just to make sure we're all speaking the same language. Then we're going to go over the actual steps of migrating a simple infrastructure over to AWS. And then at the end, we're going to go over some resources available to you for migrating, along with running your servers after you migrate them. And at the end, when we have time, I've got a few slides of best practices to get some people started so that your experience in AWS is efficient and secure. So overall, who are we? Coalesce, my team has been working with ColdFusion for about 20-ish years. We have systems that we've written and for ourselves and other clients that have high compliance requirements. And it's been what we've been doing for quite a while. And like some of you may have done already, we've tried to work hard with the ColdFusion offering that's in AWS Marketplace right now to try and tailor it to our needs. And it ended up being a bit difficult for us due to the various complexities of the requirements of compliance, along with the ways we wanted to automate things. And because of that complexity, we found it easier to start from scratch and create our own image. So that's what we did. Rockshift heard about what we had done, and he actually went and visited us, and he asked if we would offer our products to the ColdFusion community as a whole. And we agreed, and that's why we are here today. So we are going to be offering a new ColdFusion AMI on AWS Marketplace here shortly. And that AMI is going to be Windows and Linux, and it's going to become pre-packaged to be hardened to CIS and other hardening standards. These images are going to be optimized for migrations, can be optimized for simple launch, ready to consume AWS services, and are ready to go out of the box for your high security, high compliance requirements. Obviously, what you do with it afterward is as much important as what it is when you launch at the very beginning, but we want to get you off on the right foot. And in the end, the licensing for the ColdFusion itself will be available through AWS Marketplace, or with your own license, or through an ELA agreement with Adobe. So overall, the goal today of this session is I'm going to introduce some tools and give an overview of steps for migrating your ColdFusion environment to AWS. Simple as that. So why would you want to migrate to AWS? The traditional way is let AWS manage your hardware, your infrastructure, and you focus on your application, your business. One of the benefits of AWS is you don't have to pay for infrastructure up front. You pay it as you use it. And you can even do the same thing with your software. You pay by the hour, pay by a reservation monthly, or units. With AWS, you can scale easily, and you can make it highly available, so you're not susceptible to outages. You can have regional proximity to your customers. You can choose to launch in the US East region if most of your business is out of the East Coast. Go to the West region to go to the West Coast, so on and so forth. And once you're in AWS, it's easy and seamless to connect to other AWS services. And lastly, the thing that's most important to my business is compliance and security. AWS has a number of certifications and other regulation programs that they are compliant with. This is just a snippet. And you can go online to AWS's website to see more detail if you're looking for a specific compliance. In our case, we specifically use the PCI requirement for their infrastructure to simplify our requirements for a PCI audit. So it may be helpful for you in a variety of ways that you may know you do. So this is a sample of a variety of AWS migration services that are available to you. They can span from tools that can help you gather insights into your existing environment, like the application discovery service, Then you have other services for actually doing migration, either servers or data, which is Cloud or Server Migration Service or Database Migration Service. Then you have tools that help you move files, which is where the Snowball comes into play, and DataSync. And while we're speaking of Snowball, I find it very interesting. They'll actually ship you a briefcase-sized device that can hold 80 terabytes, and you ship it back to them with your data. And then you can get access to that data in your AWS account. And the more entertaining one is the Snowmobile. They'll actually send a semi to you where you can store 100 petabytes and send it up to your AWS account. I'd be curious to witness that. And the last one to talk about is the AWS Migration Hub. This is where you have more than what we're showing today. If you're migrating an enterprise or a collection of servers and you want to keep track of it at a high level, the Migration Hub is a tool that gives you a dashboard to the progress of your migrations across the board. It also gives you insights into the tools that it is integrated with, such as the AWS Migration Service. All right, some AWS terminology. This may be redundant for a lot of you, but let's walk through this real quick. The AWS Management Console is the web interface where you manage your AWS account. The region is a group of data centers. There are currently 22 global regions for AWS. If you have the number right, I looked up last week, so it can be added in all the time. So each region is made up of an availability zone. Sorry, there's a region, there's my availability zone. So you have availability zone is a cluster of data centers within a region. So each availability zone is independently isolated from the other availability zones. So the use case here is if there's a fire at one data center, it knocks out that availability zone. If you have access to the other one, you're still up and running in the same region. So if you run in multiple availability zones, you have better availability in case of a disaster. The VPC is your network running in the cloud. It can span multiple availability zones, but it must be within one region. Your EC2 instance is the actual machine running in your network. So this would be a ColdFusion server in this example. And RDS is their relational database service. It's their managed database service in AWS. It could be MySQL, it could be MariaSQL, Aurora, Microsoft SQL, and others. And in this case, with it being managed, you don't have to worry about patching the operating system. They handle backups for you. And there's other settings to help you with high availability as well. EBS is Elastic Block Store. If you have needs for adding more volume or disk usage to your ColdFusion images, that's part of EBS. Security groups, this is your firewall. It's your scalable firewall. Any instance running in there is going to have a security attached to it, or should, and that's going to be how you restrict traffic to and from your running instances. And then last one is IAM. Identity and Access Management. These are the policies you apply to your servers or profiles running in AWS to give you access to other AWS services. For example, giving ColdFusion access to an S3 file, will be defined by your IAM. So other services we'll be mentioning in this session. The Database Migration Service, how we're migrating the data for our portion of the session. The confirmation. This is an infrastructure as code. This is how we'll be defining infrastructure, and we'll be speaking to it in terms of how it can simplify your life. AMI, or AMI, however you pronounce it, Amazon Machine Image. It is an image of a virtual machine that you can launch many times. And they can be private or public, you can make your own, people can share it with you, or you can purchase it from the AWS Marketplace, subscribe it. And AWS Marketplace is where you can find these solutions. All right, so I'm going to give a sample architecture. I'm going to start with what I recommend. It's a traditional architecture. And before I lead into what we're going to actually speak to, what we're migrating, because if I went into a migration process with a complex environment, we'd be up here for hours and we'd be falling asleep. I'm going to keep it simple, but I'm just going to start with what I recommend as a starting point. So in your AWS cloud, you're going to pick a region, you're going to launch multiple availability zones. You're going to create your VPC and your subnets broken into 3 groups. You have a public subnet, a private subnet for your application server and a private subnet for your database server. You're going to put NAT gateways on your public subnet to route traffic outbound of your server. You're going to put a load balancer in your public subnet with a WAF installed, an application firewall, so that all traffic is filtered appropriately, intrusion prevention. You're going to install your database across all availability zones with read replicas involved. Same thing with your Redis server for your session management. And lastly, we're going to install CoalFusion in an AutoScaling group across your availability zones. And this is what I would recommend to start. That's not what we're going to talk about today. Today we're going to be one availability zone, one server, two subnets, just a public zone and a private zone. All right, so database migration service. This tool is one of my favorites because it's pretty much saved the day for our business. We moved to AWS 2014-2015, and we were in the preview before this was officially released of the database migration service. So it's actually improved quite a lot since then. It actually helped us transform our business from an on-premise or hosted client to AWS with no downtime, which is why I like to talk about it and present how it can help you. DMS is really handy. You can actually convert database types. That's one part of this. So you can go from Oracle to MySQL. You can go from Oracle to MS SQL. You can go to any combination thereof. It helps you migrate those services. You can also transform. You can change schema names. So let's say you actually are transferring from 3 different database servers to one database server, and you need to change the schema names. You can transform it in database migration service. So there's rules for the transformation you can apply as you're setting it up, so that when you're done, you've got your new database server and it's loaded the way you want it to. So after you've done all the settings, you can transfer your data, and then lastly, you can replicate it ongoing. So you can keep your AWS database in sync with your on-premise one or wherever it's currently hosted. All right, so this is a very simplified version of what it takes to migrate, and I'm not going to act like it's really this simple, but let's just play along with this for a session at least. 4 steps, that's all. You move. Create your database infrastructure, launch configure your servers, migrate your data, and then switch the pointers for the database and DNS. So first step, create your infrastructure. Choose your region, create the VPC network, create your security groups for your firewalls, and create your IAM profile if you need access to AWS services. How would you get started with this? You can do it through the Management Console manually, step by step by step, reading directions. If it's your first time, good luck. Another way is using the command line interface. Amazon's got a CLI that's very powerful. You can script it all. Or you can use confirmation templates. I recommend using some form of templates. And specifically, we are going to be providing some templates that we've created tailored toward ColdFusion. And I recommend taking a look at that and using that as a starting block for how it progress. But obviously, everybody has their own flavor. We've got other templating tools available to you, but I can just park what we have available because I know it's there and what you can do. So, next step, launch the service. So you launch your database server, RDS into private, not a big deal. Subscribe to the ColdFusion AMI in the AWS Marketplace. So you go to the Marketplace, click subscribe, you get access to the machine image. You don't pay anything until you launch it. And when you do pay, you only pay by the hour. So it's not a big deal to give it a try. Once you've launched your ColdFusion server, then you have to log into them and configure them appropriate for your business. This may be setting up data sources, this may be connecting other external systems, who knows what. We're going to act like this is step 4, configure. All right, last, my favorite, migrate your data. So database migration service actually runs as an instance. You don't really have access to the server, but it runs within your network. You tell it where to run and give it some access. So you create a database migration service in AWS, create an endpoint for both your databases, your source and your target. So this is a challenge for a lot of people, but it can be done. Once you create your endpoints, the next step is defining the tasks, which includes your transformations if you need any, and the rules in which you want to transfer and run it. Some people may just need to do a full load and they're done. And some people may need to do a full load and then keep replicating over time until they're ready to turn over to the new service. So that's AWS Migration Service. And last step, switch your database and DNS service. In this case, all we're going to do is change the source CoalFusion server on the far left, make a point to the new database server, change your data source to the IP addresses to switch to that. And then once that's done, change your DNS server to point to the new CoalFusion server. Bingo. Was it easy? It doesn't usually work that way, but this is a conceptual. You have different needs. We actually did a different way with some other things we've done. For example, if you don't care about this exact sequence of your transactions, you may need to reseed your database, and then you can skip the whole feeding the source TF to the new database, because eventually those records will come across. So if you reseed your AutoScaling indexes, for example, you know you've got room to let them come through until all the DNS records are updated in your clients, if that's the case. There's probably 50 different ways of making this cutoff work. So, as we've done these sort of migrations and run our own tasks, we've come across a lot of AWS services, and it gets to be a bit overwhelming. And this is a sampling of things that we've used internally to help us run and manage our CoalFusion service. Many of these are organizational, helping us manage the actual, I just lost the back to run our organization, but some of these are specifically tailored to work with our CoalFusion service. And it's very good for you to find somebody to partner with to help understand what applies to your business before going after this full force, because there are probably, I think, 200 plus services in AWS, and it gets a bit overwhelming. So with that private image that we spoke of earlier, that Rob just spoke to us about, we are actually providing CoalFusion, I already said that, CloudFormation templates to help you utilize these AWS services. So there's still a bunch on the screen, but not quite so many. These are the services that we will be helping you integrate with and implement to help manage your CoalFusion servers with the CloudFormation templates we have. So, CloudFormation. I know I glossed over before. Let's go into a little bit more detail, not too much. It's infrastructure as code. It's templated. You can use it to quickly launch your infrastructure. It could be the network all the way down to the server and what runs on the server. As we mentioned before, we've got something to get you started. And when you combine our services with the new AMIs, your servers are ready to deploy and AutoScale out of the box. So part of the challenge we had when we used the original offerings in AWS for CoalFusion was you had to manually log in, do about 2 months worth of configuration, undoing things other people had done because it didn't apply to you. And you had to then make images of that. And then when you went to launch that, you had to programmatically make that work. Our goal is to make a simple turnkey solution of just launching your CoalFusion service and plugging in a variety of circumstances around AWS services to make it easy. And one of the things we actually are looking forward to is as we do this, we want feedback, because as you guys run into problems with it or have ideas for improving, we want to make improvements to everybody. Because overall, if we can make it better for ourselves, we make it better for you and vice versa. So I want to go over very quickly about how, from end to end, the subscription to the services is improved. But to start, we get to subscribe to the marketplace. It's easy. You go there, you click a button, agree to it, you bam. You got access to an AMI. The AMI you can launch into your network as an EC2 instance, so you now have your CoalFusion server. The CoalFusion server is already been configured to work better behind a load balancer for a variety of reasons. It has a code deploy agent installed, so you can push code to it without logging into the box directly. So you can programmatically have a pipeline for how your code is updated without touching the box itself. It's got CloudFormation bootstrap agents on there, so it actually works great with CloudFormation. The systems manager agent is running, and it's going to be configured to be operational on launch, which means you can patch and maintain your server from the console. You never have to log into the box itself. In fact, you can turn off SSH or RDP altogether and manage everything through the console. Makes it a little harder to mess with your server at that point, I imagine. And last, or next to last, with all these together, your box is actually much more prepared to auto-scale. So if you had an auto-scale instance, let's say you had a healthy server wants to launch a new one, all these things come online, preloads it with your code, and brings it up without your interaction at all. And that's the automation we like when we run our servers. We want to make sure that's available to everybody. And number 8 on the list that I put up there is CloudWatch. If you start treating servers as disposable, you need to make sure you keep track of your logs. Don't keep them on the box itself. These are built ready to send the logs up to CloudWatch logs for aggregation. So in the case of, let's say a server gets hacked or what happens to it, the hack will hit their logs. Well, if it's already being synchronized to AWS, you at least have some state of it before they got to it. Or if the server died, you need to be able to see what happened to it, but you can't get to it anymore because who knows what happened to it. It's in the CloudWatch logs. Having those things feed up to AWS makes your life a lot easier for figuring out what's going on and how to manage your service. All right. I think I'm going pretty fast on this. Sorry if I'm talking too fast. Best practices. So, to kind of help everybody out a little bit, you may know a lot of these things, you may not. Doesn't hurt to talk about them. So best practices associated with AWS. Always use MFA for your logins, multi-factor authentication. Be a Google Authenticator or a USB token. I carry around with me all the time, just in case. Yeah, seriously, there's mine right there. Use that for your administrative accounts. And therefore, you don't have to worry about your password being lost, and suddenly they have access to your entire business. Second on the list, avoid using your AWS root login. When you sign up for AWS with your email address, that is your root login, whether you know it or not. The first thing you should do, go to IAM, create a user that has admin rights, and start using that login. There's reasons for it, which we can go into offline, but this is one of the first things they tell you to do. Put an MFA on that root account, lock it away. Next, use load balancers. Don't put your ColdFusion server directly on the internet-facing front end. Put something in between your users and the ColdFusion server itself. This way, there is a line of defense so that if they're hacking to try to attack you, they have to go through another service before they get to your server. And also, we optionally can attach a web application firewall to that load balancer, which is another extra benefit you can do. Only allow network is needed. In the security groups where you define the stateful firewall, you don't need SSH to a Linux server, don't give it to the world. Kind of common sense, I would imagine, for most cases, but people make mistakes all the time. Speaking of common mistakes, patch your servers. Let's skip to the next one. Keep your server single function. Don't install an SQL database on an app server. You're increasing your vulnerability threshold by having more and more things running on your server. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. And just like security groups, don't give universal rights to your AWS account unneededly. So if you give the ColdFusion server access to all EC2 functions or S3 functions, and if your ColdFusion server suddenly gets hacked, they now have access to launch any and all EC2 servers they want on your account. This is a bad thing, if you can imagine. So keep your IAM access levels minimal and grant only as needed. High availability. Use as many availability zones as you can afford. And when you do that, if you have to worry about sessions in ColdFusion, use Redis to manage your sessions centrally. Make sure your Redis is also in multiple AZs, because if one AZ goes down, you lose your sessions. People can't log in anymore either. Set up your database in multi-AZ mode as well. Amazon makes it simple. We've actually had our database server crash on us in AWS once over 6 years. And it automatically took that server down and brought up the Wrapup as a master and replaced the one that crashed with a new one. We lost no data and we were down for, I think, 30 seconds. Not a big deal anymore. And as I brushed over earlier, make sure you get multiple availability zones, and you need to talk outbound on your ColdFusion server, so you need to use a third-party API service. If your ColdFusion server is in a private subnet, it's got to get out somehow, and that's through the NAT gateway. If you have one NAT gateway for 3 availability zones, and the AZ it's in dies, you just lost all outbound traffic. Make sure you spread out your traffic accordingly. And the last topic is best practice for management. As I said before, get your logs out of the box as soon as possible into something like CloudWatch. And then from there, you can bring it into other log management tools if needed. Something I haven't mentioned though, the CloudTrail logs. This is the log for your AWS account. So if somebody does attack your ColdFusion box and launches a bunch of servers, it's going to show up in your CloudTrail. This CloudTrail will give you log history of what happened to your AWS account, any changes that were made, where and how. Automate your code deployments. Then humans make errors. Take us out. We don't make so many errors anymore. This is something we love in our business, automate these things as much as possible. AWS Certificate Manager, they make it really easy to put an SSL certificate on a load balancer, and they do it for you, and all you can do is connect a couple dots, and it's a no-brainer. I recommend to try it. If you use CloudFormation, it's really easy, and I recommend duplicating your infrastructure. So your production network and all the flow of everything, make a copy for staging, dev, whatever you need to verify that your infrastructure changes or code changes and that can break something. It's very easy to do. And last, alerts. Servers out, or some unhealthy states, or HTTP 500 errors are happening. You can put those alerts into CloudWatch, and you can have it message you, you can have it email you, or whatever. It's a place where you need to go to set up these alerts to keep track of your infrastructure. So I know I kind of ran through things really fast and very high level. I hope that was helpful in some fashion to somebody. If you have any questions, let me know. We have a little handout in the back too on the way out if you want something. And otherwise, Q&A. Your question?
Yeah, on that panel, did you have of the 8 services that you had included?
Yes.
Do you have a Beanstalk in this?
Beanstalk's a deployment tool.
Oh,
this is
last a little bit. Yeah, I was going to ask because if you had Beanstalk in there, I wanted to talk about it because I didn't think it was possible to use with ColdFusion.
I actually have not had much experience with the Beanstalk. Somebody else on my team has. We can get back out there tomorrow. We can probably talk about that further.
Yeah, because I'd be interested to know, because we've used it for AutoScaling, for code deployment, but it was under PHP, WordPress.
That's right. Yes. Yeah, let me do a little research. Let's talk about it tomorrow.
Okay.
That's my understanding as well. I actually forgot you asked me. But yes.
Okay.
How's
Yeah, go ahead.
how's licensing handled when you have multiple availability zones and ColdFusion is learning on different EC2s?
Yes. So yes, how does licensing work when you have auto-scaling and multiple availability zones? If you have BYOL, you have to actually talk to Adobe about that. But if you subscribe to the marketplace, it's all handled. Since you're paying by the hour, you actually have license to run as many servers you want if you're paying for it. So in this case, you may pay 50 cents an hour to run a server. You're running 3 availability zones. You're paying $1.50 an hour, and that's it. Obviously, the size of the server you have, the scales, and you also pay for infrastructure involved. But the ease of managing and deployment, in my mind, pays it off very quickly. Yes.
Could you talk a little bit about session management with Redis?
So, yes, I can. Redis, Amazon has a managed service. I didn't go into it because I think I threw those terms out. For Redis called Elasticache. Elasticache has 2 flavors. It's Memcached and Redis. And for the Redis side, it's actually, you have a choice of what version of Redis to run. And it's really not that much to it. There's a setting in ColdFusion to say, what's your Redis server? And it will connect to it and automatically just switch over.
And then at that point, the session's all managed by the Redis server, so if the server goes down,
Exactly.
nobody has to log in again.
That's what that would do. Yeah, we actually we put a debug at the bottom and see what server they're on. As they're clicking, we can see them swap servers on the fly. It really changes the way you work with this.
I ask 2 questions.
Yeah.
And then can you talk a little bit about how you manage your automated deployments?
So, trying to keep it as short as possible. We have a code commit, which is effectively a private Git repository in our account. And based on a commit to a certain branch, it triggers a code pipeline. Code pipeline has instructions for approval. And then once it's approved, it kicks off the code deploy, which actually pushes it to the box.
Is that a manual approval?
It is, but you don't have to do that. We have it for our case, which I recommend, just to control things, but if you have this automated pipeline down, you can automate everything. So on commit, updates the servers, and it'll actually have a code deploy is kind of neat. It has a couple of flavors to how you manage it. I think called blue-green deployment or end-state deployment, where one option is it'll actually put up a completely new server, launch the code on it, and once it's healthy, it'll replace the old server in the load balancer and take it out. And the other option is the in place, where it takes the load balancer, it removes the traffic from the server. Once it's removed the traffic from the server, it applies the code to it, brings it back online. Once it's healthy, it moves to the next one. And you can tell it how many servers we have at a time if you have a cluster. Is that kind of answer?
Yeah, that's good.
It's complicated, but once you get it going, it's pretty clear. Do you have another question?
It was sort of a similar question, which was if you could talk a little bit how you configure the environment to auto-scale horizontally and bring another machine up according to the rules. I know how it works in Beanstalk, because obviously when it comes up, it automatically will build based on the script that you've uploaded into Beanstalk. So that's how it replicates across, and load balancer automatically takes care of it. But how do you guys work?
So we actually there's a few ways you can do it. We actually have this, basically the only trigger is in 2 ways for us. One, the server's unhealthy, and second is if the average CPU is over a certain threshold.
Right.
And if that hits that threshold, it will launch a server. And after it goes below that threshold, you give it a time frame, and it'll reduce it back for you.
One question I have is,
But you also time it. You can say, on my peak hours, I can launch extra and then go back.
my question is, when it comes up, after that machine comes up, I'm assuming it's coming up either based off duplicate or it's based off EMI. And then once it comes up, does it do a code pull, make sure that it syncs up. So basically it's running the same code base. And then obviously it's going to have the same Redis connection. And
yeah, this is why you try to automate everything as much as possible. If you don't have everything automated, you just have all the settings made and you make an image of your box. And you just relaunch that AMI with everything preset. The code deploy agent is what's going to save your day on
I
this.
figure that's the magic.
That is the magic, because what it does is on launch, it will automatically pull down that code before the load balancer tries to use that server as traffic. It's got everything handled.
Yeah, cool.
It's a lot of magic that happens. Yes.
Yeah, so you've talked about shared sessions. Any advice for shared storage and CloudFront, maybe CDNs or S3? What have you guys used?
So everything we've done internally has always been dynamic, nothing static, at least not enough volume to really worry about. But you can actually put CloudFront in front of your Fusion server and set rules to say what is not static. But you have to be very careful how you set those rules. Otherwise, you can just set another domain for your static content and point that over to CloudFront.
So there's no like user uploads. You talked about HIPAA documents, people uploading different things, security involved.
You can do that. I think it's going to be case by case of how you implement that. But you can just put an S3 bucket, have that locked down, top of that one over a CDN. If I was doing an upload, I'd probably go that path. Keep it as isolated as possible. Keep it on my application server.
Thank you.
That's nice. Anybody else have any questions? If you have anything else, we'll be at the booth tomorrow. Come and find us. Love to hear from you. We'd like to hear your feedback or comments or concerns or anything. Can't improve if we don't talk. So I'd love to hear from whoever would like to talk to. If that's it, then next is the party, right?